Well, we did it for Mattel. Now Jazwares gets the spotlight. My top 5 most disappointing things with the AEW Jazwares line.
And the spirit of Ultimate Warrior will run forever!
Kyle here, back again with another edition of the Kyle Peterson Top 5, a Thursday tradition here on this very YouTube channel, as we count down my top 5 and sometimes top 5 most disappointing things, and that's where we're at here today. Of course, my list. Put your list in the comments down below, as we always say. But this list is going to be a little bit more negative than I like. This list will be in the vein of the Mattel one I did a couple of weeks ago here on this channel, where I discussed the top 5 things that are really grinding my gears with the Mattel toy lines, specifically WWE. Well, now Jazwares, they get a turn with their AEW and I guess Ring of Honor figure lines that are going on right now. A lot of issues with Jazwares over the last couple of years. Mattel, not a lot of issues, but recently having some issues. But Jazwares have had some pretty consistent issues since the infancy of the line. There is some new twists and turns in these as well, but I think a lot of this stuff is stuff I've been talking about and trying to champion here on this very YouTube channel over the last 4 years or so, whatever it's been. What is time, as a wise man once said. But the Jazwares team is very receptive to feedback. They're out there, they're looking, they're listening into that kind of stuff, so you got to give them kudos, just like the Mattel team. They're looking and seeing what's going on, what the collectors are thinking and what they're saying. But they take that in. Does it get fixed? Sometimes it does. Sometimes it still has not been fixed. So we're going to discuss the good, the bad, the ugly. More of the bad and the ugly in this video here. And I keep referring back to that Mattel one because they're kind of bookend pieces. Those are the two big wrestling figure companies going right now, Mattel and Jazwares. They got a lot of similarities and they got a lot of disconnect between the two, but they're two different companies. That's the way it does work there. But as I said, this is my list. Be interested to hear your thoughts on AEW Jazwares. I know it feels like the cool thing to bag on AEW wrestling and even the toy lines, but you got to be constructive. You got to have your business hat on these kind of lists. It's fun to just pile on. It kind of reminds me of Mattel with the Bret Hart heads. No matter what Bret comes out going forward, people are going to dog the head. That's just the way it's going to go. And I feel AEW Jazwares, we get some of That's So AEW Jazwares comments like we do with Jakks back in the day, for right and a lot for wrong, of course. But that's kind of what they've got pigeonholed into in this day and age. It really feels like they could just not do any right by collectors, especially the hardcore collectors. And as we do know, that is the vocal minority, of course, is the hardcore collectors. But we're going to discuss it. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to put this list together. Of course, we're going to start at number 5, work our way to number 1. Number 1 being my biggest issue with the AEW Jazwares figures right now. So without further ado, let's kick it off at number 5. All right, we're going to kick it off at, of course, number 5. And number 5 is a new issue. This is a new one for the list, but it is fresh in my mind because the last AEW Jazwares figure I unboxed, I had this happen to me, so it's really sticking in my craw. It's sticking in there real deep, and it's an amazing figure, but I hate what happened with this one here. What are we talking about at number 5? We're talking about Julia Hart. If you guys watched that unboxing, we had an issue with her head. We've had it from the infancy of the line. You can just pop those bad boys, pop the heads off, move them around, do whatever you need to do. So why would I think Julia Hart would be any different? Went to pull it off, broke, cracked the neck, broke the neck. I wasn't the only one that had this issue. Other people did. Even Mark Sterling from the Major Wrestling Figure Podcast had this issue. So it is a known issue. Jazwares team, to their credit, did reach out to me right away. They said this was a factory error. That should not have happened. They have immediately called the factories over there to get this fixed. So you got to love that. Constant learning, constant improvement. And they were on the case immediately. I had 2 different messages from the Jazwares team about that one. So kudos to them for watching the video in the first place. And then secondly, for making swift action to make sure this doesn't happen again. Say what you want about Jazwares. They can't be policing these factories and these people 24/7. Obviously, there's managers of the factories, things like that. Yes, the buck stops with Jazwares, but they can't catch everything, and little things like that should be caught on quality control, but you get what you pay for. You never know who you got. It's like any mass-produced item. You're always going to have some issues somewhere along the line, and thankfully this one hopefully will be a one-and-done issue here, but man, did it just grind my gears. You guys saw me in the video. Very, very upsetting, and an amazing figure, that Julia Hart. That will definitely be one of the best female figures or male figures of 2024, even with that broken neck. An absolute fabulous figure, but not fabulous in the head removal process. That's hitting it up. That's fresh. That's coming in at number 5. All right, we've reached the number 4 spot in our countdown, and number 4 is one I've heard from a lot of collectors, a lot of feedback in the comments, a lot of action figure news groups, things like that as well. People have been chirping about this one, and it feels like they've been chirping more over the last year or so about this one here at number 4. And number 4 is outdated appearances for the wrestlers that come out. Wrestlers wearing outfits from 2-3 years ago in some instances doesn't feel as fresh. Now, you can't have something that was on Dynamite last week out on the shelves. I think most people understand that. But usually a year is kind of the net value we've been seeing. And I guess Mattel's kind of set that precedent. It takes about a year from being in Survivor Series in whatever gear. About a year later, you're going to get that figure out to the market for the most part. So that's what we've kind of come to expect. And that's one of those things where Mattel's going to do it their way. Jazwares is going to do it their way. They are different companies, so they can't be held to the exact same standards. However, that's what we kind of assume we're going to get. And it feels weird kind of to get young bucks that are 2 or 3 years old. Now, it's not a big deal from Mattel a lot of times when you're getting legends and throwback attires and you have kind of different lines to get older attires into. But the mainline Elite line, the mainline Jazwares Unmatched and Unrivaled, you feel like for the most part these should be current attires, and we're definitely not getting that from Jazwares. And Jazwares has, I think they've even said it out there publicly, they've kind of pumped the brakes a little bit, trying to get caught up on figures in the pipeline. I think once that happens, we'll get more to a year out type situation with them. I guess you have to see, and we'll have to wait to see what happens. But that is a big gripe, that we're not getting stuff as fresh as it could be. And I do feel it hurts a little bit of the line and some of the collectors, because 2 or 3 years ago is a lifetime in this generation. When I think back to my childhood, you're at WrestleMania 8. WrestleMania 5 didn't seem that long ago. But now you say Full Gear 2023, it seems like 10 lifetimes ago. So it's just the different way we consume media and the way things turn and burn so quick. Some of these gears from 2 or 3 years ago are long forgotten at this point. So we need to freshen up on the outfits for the wrestlers coming out. Hopefully about a year window, give or take. Sooner the better, obviously. And that's my number 4 gripe with the AEW Jazwares line. We've hit the middle of the road of the countdown. Number 3, you got your list together, put it in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel for a countdown every single Thursday. But here we are, number 3, and I'm going to put it number 3, the same as Mattel number 3. It's going to distribution. Now, Mattel's got their own issues with distribution. Jazwares has similar but different distribution issues. It really feels like Walmart and Targets lately, at least in my neck of the woods, maybe yours as well. It seems like we have the store exclusives. You see the Brody King and the Darby Allin over there at Walmart. We're seeing the Adam Coles or the Britt Bakers, the Target exclusives. We're seeing those in abundance, but their regular lines, pretty hard to find at this point, and I have to wonder if Walmart Target dialed back the amounts on the quantities. That's not going to be on Jazwares. That's going to be end up Walmart and Target not wanting their goods, saying, hey, we're not going to sell as many, we're not going to order as many. What do? You got to bump your lineup, get it going, got to get it turning and burning is what they got to do. And we all know the Jazwares AEW line is not as popular as the Mattel WWE line. It's just apples and oranges a lot of times. WWE is a global brand, global powerhouse, been around forever. AEW is still a startup company in this day and age. Obviously, they're growing. Will they ever catch WWE? Probably not, especially in the toy brand, because Mattel is such a powerhouse. And we've talked distribution ad nauseum on this channel, including that Mattel video. Check it out if you did miss it. I do think Jazwares does have the help of some of the other brands they have, like Pokemon and Squishmallows. A lot of collectors think Jazwares, the top thing on their brain every single day is AEW Wrestling toy line. I don't think it's anywhere close. I think Pokemon and Squishmallows and probably a few other ones, Cocomelon, those, they run circles around the AEW brand. We are fortunate you got somebody like Jeremy Padawer over there at Jazwares. Kissing Jeremy's butt is what we're doing here, but it is true. He is a wrestling fan, and I think without him hurting the ship over there. I don't know how well we would have AEW figures or if we even have them at all in this day and age. So we owe a lot of that to Jeremy. But the distribution is going to be tough because the proof is in the pudding. You can put that stuff out all day long, but if the consumer's not wanting to pick it up, well, Target and Walmart are not going to put dead pegs. If things aren't turning and burning on the pegs, they're not going to want it in their store. So it's a rough time right now. Jazwares obviously giving store exclusives to Target and Walmart, even Amazon, and of course Ringside. That's pretty much, I would say, 99% of their business is those four pillars there. And it's getting tougher and tougher to find the mainline releases. But we are fortunate. We got the Ringside collectibles of the world. Use discount code Kyle. Save yourself 10%, of course. But Ringside's got all of that main stuff. And if you're wanting that main stuff, you really should just go there. You should not be depending on Walmart and Target because they might never get it. And if they get it, it might only be one case. How much time, energy, gas, you name it, did you spend trying to track those down where you could spend $1 or $2 more per figure or play that long game, get them on discount from Ringside Collectibles. That's my recommendation there. But distribution is very, very tough. It seems right now with AEW is we're really only getting store exclusives. Everything else really feeling like an afterthought. So it'll be interesting to watch that as we head into 2025 as well. So number 3 for me, just like it was for Mattel, it's going to be distribution. Like a young Traveling Wilburys, we're getting down to the end of the line here today, and I feel like a young Jeff Lynne from that Traveling Wilburys here at number 2. No idea where that's going, but it sounds okay. It sounds okay. But number 2, we're diving in, and this is one I have been talking about since the get-go. Some people champion it with me. Some people don't agree with me, but that's the perfect thing. It's my list. Put your list in the comments down below. But here we are in 2024, and we are still seeing the bane of my existence. Not Batman's bane. We're talking about pins in the elbows. I hate pinned joints. I want pinless knees. I want pinless elbows. We're seeing that from Mattel, and a lot of people have gripes about it. And once again, I talked about that in the Mattel video. I love the pinless joints. Yes, they're tougher to move, but just work on them a little bit. They'll work a little bit better. You can always heat them up if you need to as well. But they are so clean to the action figure. They make it look clean on display. I'm a displayer. I'm not a player. Maybe you're different. That's why you can put your list in the comments. But those pin joints, especially on the female figures, are such an eyesore. And I feel like in 2024, we can do away with those pins. We've seen AEW tiptoe into that in their Supreme line. I would love to see them take it to the unmatched, the unrivaled, the exclusives, you name it, because it is such a cleaner look. You see it from Marvel, you see it from Hasbro, you see it from G.I. Joe, you see it from the Elite line. Many, many lines are pinless in this day and age, and I think it's time for Jazwares to take that next step and get to pinless. It makes the figures look more iconic to me. I feel like they look more professional. Maybe that's just me once again, but they look a lot cleaner. They look better on display. I'm a displayer. They look better with the pinless joints instead of those ungodly pins staring me in the face. So number 2 for me, pinless joints. Here we are, we're at the number 1 spot. The number 1 most disappointing thing with the AEW Jazwares line as I sit here at the very end of 2024. Once again, put your list in the comments. Put them in order. That's the hard part. That is the fun part. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel while you're at it. But here we are at number 1. And if you've watched this channel for any amount of time, you got to know what the number 1 is for me here. Very easy, very cut and dry. We've had this issue since the inception of the AEW brand and action figures till to this day. What is it? It is the staining of the plastic on the figures. Absolutely unexcusable at this point here. We're 5 years, something like that, give or take, into the toy line. We should not be having stained figures. And you've seen it in my reviews. We get guys ready to inseminate a cow. They got their arms all in plastic. They got their chest in plastic. They're doing everything they can to protect it, except the root of the problem with the soft goods. How do you make it for the soft goods not to stain? Now, Mattel, they're guilty. They've had a few, but it's been a long time since the Rick Rude gate. They have found a way not to stain the plastic. How come Jazwares cannot find that? I know they're supposedly working on it. Hopefully they can, but they're putting all this work into all this plastic all over those figures. Just take away the issue and you won't have that issue going forward. It seems like it makes a lot of sense there. But even then, it's been crazy. I think back to the Amazon Young Bucks, the first one that pops out of my head. It was a 2-pack, and of course, they were locked up. They had the plastic all over them, but they were stained already through there. So the plastic didn't do anything. It was just a waste of time and waste of plastic trying to block and put a barrier between that. It actually still stained, and we've seen that numerous times in the line as well. And staining, totally unexcusable. You can say what you want about the pinless joints or the pin joints. I don't enjoy those, but at least it is what it is there. It doesn't hinder the figure, doesn't ruin the figure. Where the soft goods bleeding into the plastic, there's no going back from that. And I have so many figures that are just probably staining away, and if I ever want to sell them, I'm not going to get anything out of them. But, you know, that's the way it goes. It's not that big a deal at the end of the day as far as selling, get your money back. I don't collect for that reason. I collect more to just enjoy it and view it and see. And if I could get back what I paid for it down the line, hey, better than nothing. That's kind of my view on collectibles for the most part. It's something to enjoy in the moment and so forth, so forth. Totally different video right there. But man, oh man, we shouldn't have these staining problems here in 2024. And I hope that is totally rectified in 2025. Let's start 2025 off clean. No more stained figures. No more pins in the joints. Let's do it. I'm here for it for Jazwares. But like any toy line, any toy company out there, as we say it all the time, put that constant learning, constant improvements out there. Hopefully they get better. You know they want to get better. Will they? Time will tell. No different than Mattel. We'll find out what happens. But I also want to say we are still living in a glorious time in action figure collecting, not just wrestling, but everything as a whole. Every single brand almost that we've loved since 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever, has representation in toys in this day and age. Figures are usually better than they've ever been, the likenesses, things like that. So you always got to take that step back. You can have your gripes, you can have your gripe videos, but things are still pretty good as a whole. So let's not be too negative. That's why it's a pretty positive channel over here. I don't get too worked up about the little things, and you shouldn't either, but you got to do what you got to do. You got to do you, as one may say. But there it is. That's my top 5 list. Once again, put your list in the comments down below. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and my other YouTube channel. Don't forget about the Patreon for early access to all the videos here on the channel. Of course, Sir Paul64 over there on the X, _Kyle_Peterson on Threads, and on Instagram. And my book available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and now on Kindle, The Complete Guide to the WWE Jakks Classic Superstars series. Appreciate the support over there. So for another top 5, I'm Kyle. See you guys all real soon.